Ooh, let the 301 hum, bats of bullets off your chest till the armor falling off. Oh god, all this gas making you cough, feeling caustic when I drop. Leave your body in a pile, let it rot. Shield cells got a lot, watch you move, you a bot. Watch you fade like a thought, Skull Town where I bang. Watch your life, watch your drain, never getting off the train, never drop another game, yeah. 301 in my hands, different drop, same plan. To my squad, I'm the man, I'm a witness, no I can't. Sending shots, no spam, accurate, watch them slam, watch them run while they can, make them slump. Give me the loot, take what I want, all of my rounds, light like the sun, yeah I am the one, lighting you up. R301, you're all that I need, you're all that I want. We at the top, act like we scum, taking your life and leaving the crumbs. Do what we want, we get the dub, living that life, yeah, R301. I got the size, H-Cog, mega stabilized, no rock. Standing back, more shots, standing stock, ready pop. I got the size, H-Cog, mega stabilized, no rock. Standing back, more shots, standing stock, ready pop. Ooh, let the 301 home, that's a...
To the Series E recap show. I'm Kaisa and I'm joined by Yeso, and we're here to unpack everything that has gone on this week with Series E.
It's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to it, and I feel like let's not waste any time here. Let's just kick it off. Apex, yeah?
Yeah, Apex. Let's get into it.
Cool.
And now we're seeing it once again, just like Game 2, slowed down, but Fury
time and time again, and geez, they think they're winning it. Chances are they're winning it.
It gets thirsted by Zera Tricky as Hakula is going to come around the corner with the spray, and now it's just one player alive over here. And this was.
So, Yeso, what did you think of this week's games?
This week's games were fun. Tuesday was really interesting. Of course, we got that record-setting performance from Team Intel that we will dig into a little bit later. Of course, it's kind of a nice little preview for the ALGS Pro League, which kicks off this weekend. I really enjoyed the games we watched this week. I feel like both nights were really interesting. Of course, for very different reasons, right? It was like we knew from like Game 3 that Intel was going to win on Tuesday night, but it was just like, how high can they go? Right. And then Wednesday, I was like a very tight competition to the finish, and it made it really exciting, especially in those games on Storm Point. So it was a good week, and I'm looking forward to breaking it down and really getting into the nitty-gritty.
Me too. I feel like the performance from Intel was just absolutely incredible. They were unstoppable and set a record, right, for Series E of most points in a night, I think, of most points in a night. And then also for Pro Night, we had 100 Thieves taking the win, and a lot of really great gameplay as we go into ALGS. A lot of the teams are really gearing up, making sure they have a set game plan, making sure they're really, you know, precise with how they play these games going into the tournament.
Yeah, honestly, and I'm excited to look at, you know, kind of all the highlights here because I think we got them all nicely packaged for everybody to check out.
We do. Let's check out these highlights from this week. We are ready to go. Are you ready to go? Because we are for the first game of Series E on Open Night this Tuesday. Check it out.
Get some burn marks. That's going to be able to show what armors they have. Also continuously keep track of where these players are. With the nade coming down, it's time to fight, and that's going to be Mooney dropping down immediately. I got my money on Intel. They've been just fuming this series so far.
I mean, Mooney already has 7 kills for himself, another 3 into SlurpEG, but Lazarus still fighting back throughout all this. Fearless taking so much damage through the gas, and Lazarus at this point, Fearless is going to try his best to survive with that Valkyrie passive, but Timmy does get that knock. SlurpEG is the next one to fall as Excedrin now push out, but Nerf have largely dealt with Team Intel, and here's another 3v3 taking place. Excedrin versus Nerf. This might buy time for Mooney to come in, steal away these kills. He does get one onto Excedrin here, but cruising. Nerf still alive for Nerf right now, and he's fairly healthy with this gold armor as it looks like Excedrin will get finished off. And
playing for second, that's all they were doing. I mean, SlurpEG's back in this one. Fearless comes back, is fuming right now with 2k damage. There's no stopping him right now. He hits the tether behind the wall. He's like, okay, little rats, you want to peek out now? Get punished. That's exactly what they're going to do. Oxygen not standing a chance. Intel up, all right? They've spotted him out. All eyes are going to be on him. Oh, well, they got distracted over towards the side. He gets the top 2. Now here comes the 3v1 that we've never had.
Oh man, if he had just like put the splash, this is the healthier one, but they're not forcing the issue quite yet. They allow them to get the bat off. We'll see. Even the med kit getting tough right now for Mooney here as the challenge comes out onto SlurpyG, but he's been the player of the game for a reason. We'll see if he clutch up here. He does end up going down, and Team Intel instead surviving with that bubble. Lee jumping across, actually bubbling across, leaving himself a little bit vulnerable. Vizzy is there to try and challenge him. Lazarus out. The 3-team affair. Lee's the first one to fall on the Exception side, and they're receiving the entire focus from both of our squads right now, as Vizio's trying to climb up, but Lazarus were able to get there in time. Enemy ultimately falls. Excedrin out. Now Lazarus trying to hold the angles here. They lose out on Bird. Vizzy, the next one to...
Really nice job by Lazarus. Sneaking in there. First place in the pro scrims yesterday. Coming through in Series E. Second place today. But that just goes to show how well Intel really is playing.
Welcome to Series E Apex Legends Pro Night.
Because if you toss the black hole into the bubble, it's not going to have nearly as much effect. There goes the nades. There goes the black hole. Burles gets sucked in. He's going to fly on out. But look at how he portals all the way down over towards the rock to try to give themselves a little bit of an off angle. But that's just not going to be enough. Look at the high ground usage coming in from C9.
Split them up a bit, and he has 2 members pushing him here. Nocturnal dropped down to about 10 HP. Might be the first one to fall once again in this fight. 1 HP now, and he's still somehow alive. Skillcakes getting flanked here, tries to move around, and they get the knock onto the Nocturnal. Fun goes down. There's only kill distance remaining. And
shots. I love the aggressive play from Hal. Having that gold bag is huge for Reps as well. TSM looking like they are going to close this one out in a big way. Is Reps going for his 4K in a tournament? He could be.
He's got a Devo with only 2 shots left. Pulls out the Mastiff. Finally here. 3.5k damage on the line. There we go. The armor swap will allow him to get it. And that's going to be TSM. It looks like a 3-team affair. We got a 2v3 on the other side of this one. 100 Thieves finishing off. Excedrin, their enemy, going down. Barrels, it's just going to be a heal off here. We do have the medkit getting pre-popped by Duplex. Who's got the better timing on this one? And it looks like it might just be Vaxlon, and it is. Complexity just as a 2-man as well. End up using that Ash. Ace Bridge, big shot onto Muffins. Will take him out. Complexity are knocked out. Fury picking up one more onto Ghost, and now 100 Thieves dropping down onto Phony. Plenty of Rats, I think, still alive. It's going to be Fury trying to survive. Raknishu challenges him here, and now he is the one remaining Rat.
This is crazy because typically you have the high ground and you have the advantage throughout all of this, but now the team's on the low ground roll because there's going to be some sort of little gun punch. And you know what you do to get back on over towards the high ground? You take the grab lift, and yeah, this is the purest bit of Apex. Welcome.
Yeah, everyone's taking their fizzy lifting drink here, but it looks like Esports Arena really coming out on top. Fury does get one knock onto Scurry, and there's one more. TSM have been knocked out. 100 Thieves are out. It's Esports Arena.
And you got to be really proud of these teams at the top, but let's talk about Ghost Gaming a little bit, sitting in 5th place. They were flying under the radar, Jamerson. I don't really know.
So really good signs for a lot of the teams that we're really looking forward to when we make that swap over to Stormpoint in the ALGS. So taking a look at the Cumulative Leaderboard, this is where it's so important.
And welcome back. We're here to dig in into all of this week's games that you just saw the highlights of. There were some crazy ones, and I'm just still not over Intel playing so well.
Good thing, because we are going to dig into Intel here right off the bat. I do want to start with Tuesday, and it really is entirely going to be a conversation about Team Intel because they were the story of Tuesday night. I was able to compile some stats for the team from their performance on Tuesday, and here they are. 86 kills, which if you guys watched the end of the show on Tuesday, we noted is kind of another record they had broken because they had an 85 kill performance about a month ago. They broke that record here with 86 kills on the night, 139 total points, which is the single night record in Series E for most points. And that average placement of 2.33 is absurd. They were in the top 5 in all 6 games on the night, and a nice high average damage total too. We talk about it sometimes when we're looking at player of the game. All 3 players averaging better than 1,500 damage per game just shows that they came out, They were incredibly consistent. Everybody was contributing to this performance. I believe it was both Slurpee and Mooney had 30 kills apiece, 26 for Fearless. It was just all across the board a huge performance from Intel on Tuesday night, and it's a big reason why they set that record. They were just incredible up and down the lineup.
Those stats are just insane to have an average placement of 2.33
across 6 games.
Across 6 games, and they had a second place finish 3 games in a row as well. I feel like usually teams might have like one kind of star player, but Intel has 3 star players is how I feel.
Well, and I agree, and they feel a lot like now the current iteration of the roster. Of course, this is a very different roster from the one that started the season for Intel when it was Cody, Mooney, and Petty Boss, right? Now, Mooney is the only one left. They've brought in Fearless. They've now brought in Slurpee G, and we talked a lot and had that similar conversation about Vizio at the start of the season, right? With Scissors, Phony, and Fury. That's a roster where it feels like all 3 of these players can have those pop-off performances, can carry the load. I would almost argue, not necessarily that this lineup is better, but I would argue that this lineup is, these 3 players are more capable of doing that, like across the board. I would say Fury on Vizio kind of does take a bit more of a back seat, but can have those high highs. And I would say this combination of 3 players actually are all 3 kind of more able to carry on that level. And it's crazy to have, these 2 teams both in Series E at the same time. And it just makes it incredibly fun. And it's funny to look back at Season 3 and see what Season 3 Team Intel did. And of course, they became Team Esports Arena and are now one of the best teams in North America. And we talked about it at the start of the season that the new Team Intel, no matter who was playing for it, had big shoes to fill, right? When you look at the history of what Team Intel has done, even going back to Season 2, when they had an incredible late season surge, got signed by Ghost Gaming afterward. And it would seem like a test that was possibly too tough for the team early on in the season. They've made the roster changes, they've made the adjustments, and they have stood up to the challenge, and they are making a name for themselves as, the new Team Intel and trying to challenge for maybe the best Team Intel of all time. That's, a difficult mountain to climb, and there's still a lot left to be done there, and they may not even necessarily be focused on that goal. But I think the fact that the team has maybe possibly brought that idea into the conversation with just how well that they play, I think is a credit to exactly what they are doing and how good they have been over the last 6 weeks.
So in our standings, Team Vizio still has a top spot, and I believe Intel is number 2. Do you think Intel will be able to overtake Vizio if they keep up this performance?
Yes and no. You can see the standings on your screen right now. It's a 202-point gap between Vizio and Intel. We still have, if memory serves, 4 more weeks of play in the season, I believe. Is that technically enough time? Yes. It's going to be really hard, though, because it's going to require more consistently the kinds of performances that we've seen from Intel on Tuesday night, which is difficult to replicate, right? It's already crazy enough that they've had 2 triple-digit performances this season. Putting together 3 or 4 would be unheard of, unreal, right?
Right.
So I would say it is theoretically possible, but I'd say it's unlikely just because I don't think Vizio is going to play bad enough over the next 4 weeks to open the door for Intel. Because that's the other thing, right? It's not like you're playing 1v1 matchups and it's just like, if you win the game, you close the gap that significant amount, right? Intel could come out and have a really good night, and Vizio can still have almost just as many points, and then it's just like, yeah, you had a great showing, but you haven't closed that gap in the standings because of how good Vizio did. So I would say it is unlikely that Intel does it, but ultimately, I don't think it's necessary. Sure, they would like the title of Season 4 champions. That would certainly feel great, but ultimately, I think this team is focused on continuing to hold on to their spot in the top 3 and earning their spot in next season, as well as translating the success we have seen from them on open nights into pro nights, and then specifically into the ALGS Pro League, which is what is, I would imagine, most important to that roster.
That's a great point. Even if Intel does really well, Team Vizio is also going to do really well, so they have to catch up and overtake them if they want that top spot, which is definitely a tall order. We've talked a little bit over the past few weeks about Team Nerf and Team Excedrin. What do you think, how do you think Team Excedrin is going to go into the next few weeks, and do you think they'll be able to overtake Team Nerf?
That is a very different conversation. That gap between the two teams, only 22 points. Excedrin is, if we look back at last week's predictions, a team that I had my eye on going into this week. They had some solid performances, and they've kept that gap very close. I don't remember off the top of my head what the difference in the standings was a week ago, but at the very least, it remains close for right now. Excedrin is, I'm a big Kimchi Lee fan, and I want to see that team succeed. I also like Nerf, honestly. Turns is a really fun player to watch, and I've really liked the additions of Dimmy and Force. Will it happen? I would say that is the race to watch, because nobody is going to catch Intel, and I don't believe that Intel is going to catch Vizio. So top two seem pretty set in stone. Now it's just, can Excedrin take a run at Nerf? I think they have a shot. I think it's going to be the most interesting storyline to follow over the remainder of the season. If I'm a betting man, do you want to make a little? Bet here?
Oh, sure.
Do you want to make a little bet here?
Sure. I was about to say, are you a betting man? You said if I was a betting man.
Okay. We will determine the terms of the bet at a later date. We will agree on that at a later date. But third place. Does it go to Nerf or Excedrin? I will let you choose, and I will take the opposing side. So do you want Nerf or do you want Excedrin?
Shoot.
I'm putting you on the spot here.
You're putting me on the spot. It's neck and neck because Nerf, I feel like Excedrin always has good fights, and when I'm watching the games, kind of mid to late game, as we're getting close to the final ring, Excedrin always seems to be doing really well. Nerf, I'm a big fan of Turns. I just noticed Turns was on the Rat Cam 2 days in a row, and I was just like, Turns, best rat. And I feel like Nerf has had some really good fights and great positioning as well. This is a tough one.
Sure.
I've been rooting for Nerf the past few weeks, so I'm gonna go with Nerf.
You're gonna stick with Nerf?
I'm gonna stick with Nerf, even though I do believe Excedrin definitely has a shot of getting third place.
Okay, so we'll just slap it then in our predictions here as well. So Kaisa will take Nerf, I will take Excedrin. We will determine the stakes of our little bet here at a later date. We'll come to some sort of fun little agreement for the results of the bet. But I think, again, it's the most interesting storyline in Series E for the rest of the season. It's going to be that battle for third place because there's a ton at stake, and it's holding on to that sponsorship, not having to play through qualifiers again, and it's incredibly important to both of these teams. And interestingly enough, both Kimchi Lee and Turns were in Season 3. They both competed in Season 3 and both had to requalify for this season. So one of them will have a shot to not have to do that for the second season in a row. So we'll have to see, which one of them can take care of business there. But it is a very interesting conversation at the very least.
It is definitely the race to watch. I have one more question about standings because I noticed that Team Razor and Splash had the exact same point score. So I was wondering.
Really, I wasn't even looking at the bottom two of the standings. If I'm being honest, I was just so focused on the top four.
And I was also thinking about how during
Thank you, production. Shout out to the
662
awesome production staff.
Thank you, production. With your mid-season awards as well, Team Razor, I think, was biggest surprise.
Yes.
So I was
in the not so good way. Yes.
In the not great way. Do you think either of those teams will really hit their stride going forth, or what do you think is going to happen?
I think we're at a point in the season where we know what we're going to get from Team Razor. We've seen enough of them since the roster changes. And Splash as well. Of course, Splash, like the most recent major roster adjustment, bringing in an entirely new roster. Prodigy Aces has stated publicly that he's stepping away from competitive play. Casellos is not going to be competing in Pro League. So I would say the team is just looking to ride out the rest of the season, and then kind of each player is going to go their separate ways and figure out what they want to do with their competitive career. I completely respect that, and I wish them the best. I don't think we're going to see any big surprises from either of these teams, if I'm being honest, at the end of the season. It would be great if Razor kind of found some late form here, and they, you look at the standings, they're not that far behind Excedrin and Nerf. It's a larger gap than 22 points, but it's I think it's 110 points from their spot in 5th place up to 3rd. So that is by no means out of the realm of possibility. So I would love to see Razor find form here at the end, challenge for 3rd place, and make that conversation between Nerf and Excedrin that much more interesting. I'm not buying that it'll happen though, if I'm being honest.
We'll have to see what happens in the upcoming weeks. Should we go into predictions for what's going to happen week 13?
We did predictions. We just ran it with Nerf and Excedrin there. So we'll just place our bet. We'll act as our predictions. I do want to talk about Wednesday night though.
Yes.
Wednesday night is important.
Wednesday night, Pro Night, the 100 Thieves taking 1st place, C9 in 2nd, and ESA in 3rd. What did you think of the games overall?
It was a really fun night, and of course, we talked about it on Wednesday with the addition of Vaxlon to the 100 Thieves roster, and how it has, at the very least in the short term, kind of galvanized that roster, and they've been certainly looking better. Renegades is a team in a similar situation. Of course, they won Pro Night a week ago. 100 Thieves had just a really good showing, and I'm happy to see it. I'm a big 100 Thieves fan myself. Especially for their League of Legends team, so I love to see them succeeding, and I'm curious to see if they can carry that success from this week into this weekend. We'll have to see how that plays out, but they had a really good night. C9 had a really, really good night too. Kind of felt like they flew under the radar. We were certainly talking a lot about 100 Thieves in Esports Arena, but Cloud9 started the night strong and stayed really consistent all throughout, and that's how they were able to grab that 2nd place finish. And of course, Team Esports Arena, not able to secure the back-to-back 2nd places, but still being up in the top 3 and being in the conversation is good. And now I'm just like, all right, let's see you guys throw down in the ALGS. That's really what I'm looking forward to. All of these Pro Nights I feel like are just these nice little samplers to get ready for when all the big dogs come to play in the ALGS Pro League.
ALGS is this weekend, and it's the same format as Series E, where it's 3 games on World's Edge and 3 games on Storm Point. So definitely what you see in Series E is a big preview for what's to come this weekend. Should we talk ALGS, or is there any final things on Pro Night?
Just good job, 100 Thieves. Really good
Great
showing.
job, 100 Thieves.
Yeah, well played. But I do want to get into the ALGS Pro League, and I want to specifically start by bringing up the group draw for Pro League here, because this does determine a lot of things. So you can see all 4 groups there, how they have been split up. So Group A, TSM, G2, Renegades, Lazarus, XSET, Buff, Pathfinder, CLX, Nightmare, Washed, and Bad Boys. Group B, NRG, Premier, GGW, Ghost Gaming, Oxygen, Charlotte Phoenix, Scry, CLG, RCO Esports, and LMK. LMK is the Nerf roster, just FYI. Buff Pathfinder is kind of a mix too. They have Kimchi Lee on that roster. Group C, Esports Arena, Cloud9, Team Liquid, Furia, 100 Thieves, Built by Gamers, Senior Service, Last Minute, Optimal Ambition, literally vibing. Senior Service is the Team Intel roster. And then Group D, Sentinels, Torrent, Complexity, Space Station, Unlucky, Dexterity, All Glory, Elevate, Start a Fight, and TDG. Quick points across the board. My initial thoughts on each group. A, seems pretty decided. This should be the TSM and G2 group, with a few teams battling for 3rd and 4th place. I think it's pretty clear at the top there. Group B, in my opinion, is the most wide open group. I think NRG easily wins this one. What happens behind them is like, who the hell knows? I think Premier, GGW, Ghost, Oxygen, and CLG could all battle it out and could all compete for top spots there. My prediction from my my own video that I made last night, I actually picked CLG to finish 2nd in this group, which I feel like is like the spiciest take I have in that video. But I'm actually on the CLG hopium, big time. Group C seems like the tightest group at the top, with Esports Arena, Cloud9, Liquid, Furia, and 100 Thieves, as well as Senior Service. I think Esports Arena and Cloud9 shouldn't have too many issues winning that group. it does get really interesting after them. In Group D, feels like a Sentinels and Complexity group for me. It's a bit of a mix. It is one that feels kind of wide open after the top two, but doesn't feel as compelling to me as Group B. And those are kind of my overall thoughts on all four groups there.
This whole layout is super interesting to me because in Series E, it's kind of the same teams, you know, it is the same teams playing every Wednesday versus in ALGS, there's different groups, so you're not necessarily going to be playing, you know, with the same tried and true teams, with the same drops, you know, you kind of have an expectation of what's going to happen early game. It's going to be a bit different as it's all shaken up, especially with the new teams coming in. I mean, there's a lot of the same pro teams and also, you know, Team Nerf and Team Intel, a lot of players still in the mix, but there's also a lot of new players that are going to shake up everyone's strategies and how they're going to approach this weekend.
Yeah, the group format of the ALGS Pro League is definitely the X set buff, because now they know
really
CLG is not necessarily going to be in their lobby every single week, so they only have to worry. They only have to worry when it's Group A versus Group B, which I actually don't know what the group matchups are for this weekend. But knowing how they usually do it, it wouldn't surprise me if we saw A and B go against each other on the first day. That wouldn't be a complete surprise. So that would be funny. But it does feel like a bit of an exit buff because they're now like, okay, hey, we keep losing all these 50-50s to CLG to start the game. Thank God they're not in our group. We won't have to see them every weekend. So that is definitely one thing they'll be enjoying. I like the group format too because it keeps things really interesting. Of course, Pro Night in Series E here is super fun, especially because teams just come in with different levels of play week after week, and that makes things fun. But I think the fact that the matchups change so drastically when you pair up the different groups on a week-to-week basis makes it really compelling, and it's fun to see how teams adjust their play based on the group on the other side. Of course, you become familiar with the teams in your group because you are always, you know, Esports Arena is going to see Cloud9 every single weekend, no matter what. And you do develop that familiarity, but the kind of adjustments you make based on the other group coming to the table for that weekend's competition is certainly interesting. And also, I would like to pull up just the schedule here because this is another conversation to have, is the very compact schedule for this split. Of course, Pro League got delayed due to the ongoing conflict out in Ukraine, and we do want to note that the EMEA Pro League is still on hold. But with Pro League starting a few weeks late, this is a very compressed schedule. It obviously kicks off this weekend, then we get 4 days in a row of play next week, Thursday through Sunday, and then match days 7 through 12 happen across a 5-day span. So Pro League is going to be done in about 3 weeks time, in less than 3 weeks.
That is so ridiculous to me. I feel like they're kind of speed running this,
Yes.
which is, I think it's going to be really interesting. If I were thinking about what it's like to be a player, that's not a lot of time in between games to kind of review what went wrong and how to fine tune how to go into next match, you know, with better skills. I feel like it's just kind of nonstop playing games.
Yeah, for me, it feels like this split is going to be just who are the best teams right now.
Exactly.
You're not going to really see teams have the opportunity to grow and develop through the course of the split because there's just not enough time. I feel like the best teams in week 1 will likely remain the best teams by the end of the split, barring some drastic changes. And is that good or bad? You know, there is certainly an argument to be made for both sides. I will say, I think as a viewer, it is going to be an incredibly compelling split, and just the sheer amount of competitive Apex play you're going to get to watch over the next 3 weekends is going to be awesome. So if you're a fan of competitive Apex, you're looking this and going, hell yeah, I've got so much action to watch over the next 3 weeks. It's going to be absolutely nuts. So clear your schedules for the rest of the month. Go get some snacks, park in this, you know, in your living room, at your desk, wherever you watch, you know, and watch a lot of ALGS Pro League because it's going to be nuts.
It's going to be crazy. That is just so much ALGS content, and I absolutely agree with what you said about how this is about which teams are the best right now. There's not really any time to grow over the course of the season. I really hope no team is underprepared and gets stomped. I mean, they're all qualified to be in this competition. I hope it's a close competition throughout all the matches, but that is quite daunting to know.
It is going to be a humdinger of a split. We'll go with that. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be fun. It's going to be dramatic. And these players are going to be tested to a very incredible level. And I'm excited to see, it's kind of like the pressure makes diamonds argument here, right?
Well said.
The teams that can handle this kind of crazy compact schedule the best are going to come out of it incredibly strong, and it's just going to be so much fun. I cannot wait.
It's going to be so fun. I'm also looking forward to some of the teams that I don't know as well to see how well they're going to do. It's always cool to see kind of new teams and new players in the mix, as well as the old ones. But we are going to wrap up our Apex Legends discussion because Alex Valle is joining Yeso to discuss Guilty Gear Strive.
Versus coming daily under pressure. Working on the plot and the scheme. The true side trademark is at the edge of your dreams. I'm talking. Yeah. One shot, now the future is yours. I'm turning dreams into reality. In the lab with the formula and chemistry. Your memories spark and motivate and make the industry shake. Put the bars in the breaks. I'm talking one chance at episode, going for the goal. It's one shot, now the future is yours. Let's go. I'm fading.
One bad headache can crash your entire game.
Excedrin relieves headaches fast.
Excedrin, game over for headaches.
Refreshing, refreshingly sweet, but without sugar, 0 calorie treat. They're all our top flavored splash.
It's fruit freshing.
Welcome back, everybody. Yeso here with Alex Valle. We are, of course, talking Series E Guilty Gear Strive. Alex, it's always good to see you. How you doing on this fine Friday?
Oh, man, it's Friday. It's always Friday. You know, I would have to say it's my second favorite day of the week.
Okay.
Obviously, Wednesday is my favorite, right?
I respect it.
Wednesday is my favorite. It's like my first Friday, so this is like my second Friday, so can't hate.
Hey, and we're in the right place.
No.
We are talking, of course, Series E Guilty Gear Strive. A ton of action happened this week, so let's check it out. If you missed the show last night, we'll get you caught up on exactly what happened. Let's take a look. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Series E Guilty Gear Strive. My name is Yeso. I will be your host today as we keep the season rolling here of Hotashi Is Back, along with a range of other top talents from Guilty Gear Strive, and they'll all be duking it out here tonight for the cash on the table. We're ready to get into the action, though, so I'm going to hand it off to our casters to kick off another week of Series E Guilty Gear Strive action. Let's go.
Man, now through the wall. Look at the damage on Potemkin again. The character with the second highest health functionally. Oh boy, this is gonna hurt. Speaking of damage, look at this. One more Pop Buster will take it for it again. And yeah, Jonathan just having trouble getting out of here. Here we go, more pressure. Okay, Jonathan finds the gap.
Finds the time to throw out Eddie's butt. The first, Eddie is back for now, but we will get a chance to get the field, and there's the counter hit. Be a wall break as well to follow. Okay, we're going for the Sharks over here. I don't know. Yeah, wow, it's up. Whoa!
boy. Okay.
Come down to this final game, final round here. Jonathan Tene and Idio, but Jonathan Tene is the one that starts it off with all the momentum.
Yeah, the backdash is away. They're trying to build the Eddie Gage back, but look at this. Catches the backdash, takes him all the way to the corner.
How are we going to get out? The PRC, the eject
nice.
button. I am out of the corner there in the post setup. Oh, no, not like this.
Is it
not like this.
Yeah, it is perfectly timed. Gets the kill off of the burst. Jonathan today is in grand finals. Man, you saw right there the Razo trying to go for a meaty shield. He was expecting a rake up something from Solstice. I didn't see if Solstice had the super locked and loaded, but he's going to be able to get the range. Yet you cannot burst Ram. Solstice is coming back and winning this now. I can tell you, Idiosyncrasy is doing wrong. I wonder if they talked with each other afterwards last time. Maybe he tried to give, maybe Hitachi tried to give Idiosyncrasy some advice. I don't know. But right now, Solstice is still in this, and if he's gonna take this, there it is.
Pod here with Zato.
Right. There's that 6B again from Solstice getting the anti-air. Look at this damage. The wall carry. Oh my goodness, where did all of Zato's health go?
Shield Wipers don't care about the Zato health part. Diminishing it so quickly, using the heat to close the gap.
Okay, Jonathan Tene, tournament point. The heart's got to be beaten fast. It's not just 300 points. $300. There's a lot of points on the line, and almost puts himself into a really strong position to guarantee he keeps these sponsors. They've been flying him out to all these tournaments, and they get paid a salary. This is huge.
Yeah, and that's what's super on the wall break is so big because you essentially get a free block carry or just blocking all the way. But there's the burst. So this last line of defense, no meter for both players as well as he's down the wire.
I don't know why Ramblethal Rekka just didn't hit on the last hit. The hit second hit, whipped on the third one. He was just too far away. Jonathan then had to punish, and he should be able to take it here. No, it's not done yet. Oh my God.
Barely alive, but the poke on the round start there after the wall break. Jonathan is going to take it 3-1 over Solstice with his first W in great stuff to Jonathan Tene, and of course doing it with the Zato.
An incredible performance last night from Jonathan Tene, and important to note, the entire top four, all Series E players, Jonathan Tene, Solstice, Idiosyncrasy, and Razo, so the partner pros, showing up in force last night.
It's a great thing to see, man, because I'm telling you, we're getting closer to the end. We're getting closer to the end of Season 1. And you called it this time, my man. You called it. Let's give my man some props.
You know what?
He called it.
I wasn't going to say it, but...
that's part of being a good sportsman. You called Jonathan Tene winning. Great pick. Like, Jonathan Tene, I always have in my mind, is always going to be that dark horse. At any given time, it just hasn't won tournament, right? But you've always believed that, it's just coming. It's inevitable.
I would argue... you as well. We've had a lot of different conversations since the start of the season, even on draft day, talking about the kind of mentality that Jonathan brings to the table, and how his youthful mind and just what he does in these brackets is so different from a lot of players. And of course, the fact that he plays Zato also brings a different wrinkle. But credit where credit is due. You've been on the Jonathan Tene hype train for a long time as well.
Luckily, I can see some of the talent creeping in there.
Sure.
And doing their work. But congratulations to Jonathan Tene. But as you said, there's other Series E players that have made their strides in there too. Solstice, we just had a conversation during break that Solstice is the most solid player. It just needs to win that tournament. Kind of like Jonathan Tene has been kind of hanging in there in the top 3, right? Just needs to win that tournament. Solstice also has been dominating Wednesday night fights every time in there with the Ram. And dude, these rankings are so close now, my man.
They are
super close.
You can see how things panned out in the top 8 last night on your screen right now. Some very key victories. Those interesting 3-0s in the losers quarterfinals as well, Razo and Solstice taking really strong victories over, these are not pushovers. Adventure and Supernoon both falling there. And then Solstice comes in and it's crazy. I feel like the Solstice and Razo matchup never goes past 3 games. One of them is going to 3-0 almost every time. And this time around, it was Solstice. And Solstice continues to hold the edge, at least over the last few weeks, over Idiosyncrasy, winning in losers finals to get into the Grands.
Yeah, Solstice definitely is top Ramfall in the States for sure.
Okay.
I think it's just every tournament Solstice enters top 3 Ram, and everybody's kind of like they don't even want to bother playing that mirror match, right? It's just ridiculous, right? It's great to see Supernoon still hanging in there, because Supernoon in the beginning started pretty shaky, but he's a great player overall. He's pushing forward. He's giving everybody a run for their money too. So it's great to see him, back in action. And Idiosyncrasy, you know how we say it's always that roller coaster. Like, he will have an amazing performance one tournament, and then another is just like he's not in top 8 or barely in it. So this is like that's just the nature of that character.
Yeah.
So like you're always putting them to sleep in the corner, or you can't even get started.
And back-to-back top 3s, obviously Idio probably walks away with a bit of a bad taste in his mouth after going 0-3 against Solstice, but still, those are back-to-back top 3 showings, and that's definitely something that Idiosyncrasy can build on. I do want to talk about something that we actually mentioned off-air moments ago, and it was interesting. I got home last night and I checked Twitter, and Jonathan Tanay had tweeted out, he said, quote, "I'm so mad that the first online tournament in Strive that I win is when I've been doing nothing but studying plus playing Elden Ring the past week. Lol." What kind of jumps out to you about that tweet and about what Jonathan's talked about there?
It's actually very common because there are players players have to grind in different ways to get those results. Obviously, there's players that need to ultra grind and just super focus on what they got to do to win. Others kind of like need that break. They'll play, they'll grind, and they'll stop for a bit and come back in, right? But then in Jonathan Tanay's case, like he's still a kid, right? But he has so much range that he's probably not super focused right now because he's obviously doing other things. But even with that, he's kind of like he's still that kid that like can adapt on the fly, like I said. And while everybody's ultra grinding, they're scared, they're like mushy, they're cold. Oh man, I gotta play this crazy kid Zato.
Yeah.
And while this kid is like just collecting souls somewhere and beating up some dragons, like, oh, I gotta play my match. All right, let's go. Let me go in there and bust some heads real quick. Oh, you know what? Maybe Elden Ring, because isn't that game like super hard anyways?
Yeah.
So maybe that has helped in the training.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I can't die. I don't want to die anymore, man. And then you go into Guilty Gear Strive. Oh, I'll show you me not dying.
Yeah. This is easy mode now, right? I got my ass beat in the other game. I can come over here and kick some ass myself. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's to each individual player has to find that kind of right balance of the grind and then finding breaks to do other things, whether it's studying, playing Elden Ring, family life, all that kind of stuff. But that Elden Ring balance is very important. But of course, it was only a matter of time for Jonathan. We've talked about it all season. Congrats. And cool to see back-to-back weeks with Series E players getting their first win. We got Solstice last week. We got to talk about Solstice a ton. And Jonathan Tanay this time around. And that was awesome. We do have a nice look at the Series E leaderboard and all that work that Jonathan Tanay has put in all season, even when he was getting the Grands and couldn't run to the finish line. That performance last night puts him over the top. Now has stolen away first place from Shine.
Yeah, it is definitely that three-way race. Solstice still has a chance. If Solstice just turns it around, is like, you know what? I'm not getting anything lower than second. It can still happen.
Yeah.
Right? Still happen. Razo right there. So one of the main reasons why I picked Razo last week is because Razo does, like, even from the start, from the jump of this stuff, it's ultra competitive, wants to get better. And yeah, you may feel like during the meta, it's like, all right, did everybody catch up? Did I plateau? So it's kind of in that limbo of where, soul searching. You know, so should I switch characters? Should I experiment a little bit? Maybe I have a few tournaments to get, you know, explore a bit until I can like truly take it serious. But you know, that time is come and gone now.
Sure.
You know, this is the time where, you know, Jonathan Tanay is Elden ringing his first place on top. Shine is just like, oh, I don't know what you guys are blabbering about. I'm just gonna put you in the pot buster, and then we're back in business. You know, you can never count Shine out ever. He's like the definitely the best Potemkin player in the States. Just strikes fear in the heart of everybody. Razo's like it's the champion of the game. It's like the current kind of what everybody expects from Razo. And that's probably another thing too, is the pressure. Yeah, the pressure is a big deal. And Solstice just creeping on up and moving up. I like it. You know, it's like the Jonathan Tanay and Solstice are the next two that are coming up, and that's what's healthy about these rankings. Because you start with the known big players, and then like the rookie guys are coming up and they're making their stride.
It's I don't know that we could have asked for a better crop of players for the first season of Series E Guilty Gear Strive, especially when you look at those standings and thinking about every week we come in and it's just like, I'm like, almost any of these pros could take that big run tonight. Even when you look at the kind of talent that's coming in every single week, you see the Beans in all the time. Hotashi's always here. We're getting incredible players like K7 Show Off and Flash coming in. And then you're like, but the Series E pros can still throw down with all of these players. And it just means that we've had an incredibly compelling season so far. And it means the finish is going to be so much fun. Because you talk about that race for top 2 to hold on to that sponsorship, to hold on to your spot in Series E. And there are 5 players in the running right now definitively for just 2 spots.
Yeah, it's crunch time. We've been saying it for the past 2 events, but like whatever you got to do, also don't try to do this by yourself. You know, you have friends, you have peers, you have competitors. Have conversations. Conversation is healthy for the mind, because if you can't bottle this in, you can, but it's just gonna hurt that much more. You're gonna doubt yourself that much more. All these like demons within you. But when you talk about it, you'll have like answers. You'll be confident. You'll be able to like feel good, you know, about your progress. That you're not the only one in it. You know, this is a community effort. That's why we're the FGC. Yeah. You know, nobody can be on the top by themselves. They've either had a rival, a buddy, friend, family, inspiration, watching videos, whatever it took, talking to their friends on Discord, you know, going on stream chats, whatever it takes, man. Have fun. Playing Elden Ring. Maybe you have a buddy dragon that you talk to, you know, while you're taking notes on your test. Whatever it takes. Yeah, it's time.
Do what you got to do. Yeah. We had a nice in-depth discussion a week ago about majors and offline events coming back. And what do you know? Perfect timing. Evo is back. Alex, we got the lineup for the next Evo. Of course, Evo is the premier FGC event, and it is returning. I want to take a peek at that lineup of games right now, because there's one very familiar to us that will be on there. You can see it at the top center of your screen. Guilty Gear Strive, of course, along with Street Fighter 5, Mortal Kombat 11, Tekken 7, King of Fighters 15, Melty Blood in there. I've seen a lot of people very excited about that. Dragon Ball Fighters, Grand Blue Versus, and Skullgirls. That is a hell of a lineup of 9 games.
It's beautiful just to see that we're gonna get an offline Evo again. You know, I'm just gonna go straight to the jugular here. The interesting part about this lineup and what Evo's gonna do to highlight the main game, this year they're going to put it in the community's hands. The highest registration for the game, any of the games on the lineup, will be the main showcase for Evo this year. So the big question is, which one is it? Which one is it? And you could look at previous offline events that just happened and look at, you know, what the registration numbers were there. So I'm gonna actually throw it to you and give me your prediction.
I love it. You're going to throw it to the non-FGC expert here.
Well,
just to see maybe what I know. I would say, based on the community perception that I have seen right now, of course, Guilty Gear has been the premier game of the last kind of 8 months to a year, but King of Fighters has been popping off since it came out. Everybody is playing it. So I'm going to hedge my bet here and say it's Guilty Gear or King of Fighters. If I had to pick one, I think it will be Guilty Gear. But I think King of Fighters is going to give Guilty Gear a run for its money in terms of entrance at this event.
So you're literally gonna go and bet on odds.
Yeah.
Odds.
You know what? I gotta do what I can. All right. I don't have my finger on the pulse as much as you do, Valle. I gotta do what I can here.
Okay. Well, I'm just going by. It's pretty. If you're an FGC and you've been looking at the numbers of each offline event, it has definitely been on the Guilty Gear Strive side. It's the #1 game. It's uncontested right now. King of Fighters 15 just came out. A lot of people are playing it. So here's the interesting part about King of Fighters 15. It's a game where you have to learn 3 characters right off the bat. You have to. It's just in order to play. So I do see a lot of people are taking their time. They're not entering tournaments right away because they got to learn. And now that we're over like 3 weeks in, they're coming out from different sub communities. Like if you're a Street Fighter player, if you're a Tekken player, et cetera, you're trying some King of Fighters now, you're in there. So the interesting thing about that too is that like a lot of people don't know that King of Fighters is a huge international game.
Yeah.
Right. Like so, that means like it's kind of like not to say the U.S. doesn't have like crazy talent, but it's like the soccer of fighting games. Like it's popping in Europe, it's popping in Asia, it's definitely popping in Latin America, just like it was in soccer, right?
Sure.
They got huge pride for this game, and like a huge shout out to at least the Mexican community that enters Wednesday Night Fights now. They've never had that opportunity because just the net code in previous iterations was so poor. So you might be onto something, man. King of Fighters could give Guilty Gear Strive a run for its money, and rightfully so, because that just shows that the passion of the community has never stopped. The game has been doing so well out there, and Guilty Gear Strive, even though it's been out for a while now too, people are seasoned now. So this is the point where it's like, if I get into it, will I get bodied, or should I just try a new game and see where I go? You know what? Play them all, because we do.
And I think that's a very particular point that plays to the benefit of King of Fighters in terms of the numbers, is that because it's so new, I feel like there's a lot of people, because obviously the FGC is well known for. I've been to enough Wednesday Night Fights and seen enough players that enter multiple different brackets, right? You're in the Street Fighter bracket, but you're also playing in Dragon Ball Fighters that day. You know what? Maybe you're feeling really good. You're going to go jump in Tekken 7 for a while as well. So you're going to get a lot of that cross-pollination. So I feel like King of Fighters is the one where more people, because the game's a little fresh, you put in the time, you're feeling like, hey, why not? Like, let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. That King of Fighters might get a lot of those players saying, what the hell? Like, let's see what happens.
Yes, it's a game where if you didn't understand how King of Fighters is or never got into it, we're in the content creation era.
Yeah.
You can pick up the game pretty easily now with how much basic tutorials is out there, how to pick your characters. There's a tournament every day of the week. You can reach out to top players. We're the FGC. You can actually reach out to us. It's very easy by Twitter and whatnot. Tournament organizers, if you have a live event or local event, they will let you know where. This is the time to ask. Don't be shy. We need more players. And Guilty Gear, there's a lot of Guilty Gear players that are trying it as well, and vice versa. So we're all one family. That's why there's so many different games at these major events. We don't just discriminate with any fighting game. We're open arms and all.
It's going to be awesome. Yeah. I'm excited. Evo, again, is one of those premier, of course, it's one of the premier FGC events, but it is just a premier esports event. period. Like, you look at some of the big ones across multiple different titles, Evo is up there with the best of the best for a reason. I'm excited for it to be coming back. We obviously dug deep into it last week, but offline events, that is the bread and butter of esports, and especially of the FGC, and I cannot wait. Alex, I always appreciate your time. Any final thoughts before we close out the Guilty Gear talk here today?
Just like the conversation we had the other weeks about like locals and majors and stuff coming out, right? And Evo just announced their lineup, and that it's back at the Mandalay Bay in August 5th through 7th, I believe. So start planning if you want to get into the competitive scene and make your mark. Plan to go to a local or enter an online tournament, right? Build that roadmap for yourself to give you a little bit of confidence to see where you are. You never know. You probably have the skills. You won't know unless you try. And that's when we're here to highlight your results.
Where do they got to go to sign up for WNF?
WNF, you can go to smash.gg/WNFOC.
There you go.
Sir.
There you go. So get in on that. That is going to do it for the Guilty Gear talk. We're going to go to a quick break, but when we come back, we'll be closing the show talking some Halo Infinite. So we'll be right back.
Favorite just gets dwindled down to the United one.
I just have to put it out. Snakebite gonna come out on top, and now the damage has been done. G2's on their back.
The series to go the distance, and that means Optic Gaming needs to wake up. It appears that they've started to do so.
Welcome back. We're here to talk about none other than Halo Infinite in this week's games.
Yep. Second week of the season. It was a lot of fun to watch, and we had some heavy hitters coming in on Wednesday night, which was really, really cool to see. And Fnatic back again, and they're looking strong as well. Kind of a crazy week of action in the Halo scene here for Series E.
Some pretty wild games, some pretty strong showings. Shall we check out the highlight video?
Why not? Let's do it.
Let's check it out.
Hello there, and welcome back once again to our Esports Arena Series E, week 2 now of our Halo Infinite competition. We've got a grand on the line. We've got very talented players in attendance. I mean, what more could you ask for, I think, on your Monday?
Odd shot goes to Mangler in hands. A beautiful spike grenade gonna land right onto the elbow of Septify. Ends up getting himself a kill, and just like that, we were tied up at 36 apiece at the moment.
Duel here, Carmea does get a kill for 44. They're gonna slide right back in for 45. Back on streets in the previous series, Tony in the fight for the OS. I think is the big question here. You got Super CC already on it, defending it. The nade shot coming. Excellent to see, but losing some of the weapons here in mid-game could even the odds for Fnatic. Piggy, he avoided the stick, I think.
Carmea will take some heavy damage, and the cleanup kill will end up coming in. Psycho luckily able to take down Septify, so Fnatic will end up playing the ball off the map, but Psycho gets himself a beautiful double kill. We most likely will see the ball end up going into the hands of Incognito, but in long haul, because they know the spawners are spawning over towards bottom A elevator.
Last round it was Carmea going ham. This time it's Cycle though, right? He's 12-6 currently, and he's holding the ball for his team.
Rotation over towards the B Street side. They want that height advantage. Alex Shot getting the initial kill that they need onto Furiously into the BR is absolutely deadly, but so are Need and Orc, who are starting to get the slays once again. Furiously having to leave it all on the line, including you. That was the play right there. I know I'm behind the desk and I'm not playing, but if I was coaching, I'd be a little upset with that one. Meanwhile, Eli
to be useful for the teammate. You can see Alex Shock already picked up one with a nade. That'll bring him to 42. And U-Spotter is already dead. The man was still like, he was translucent, Tony. The dude was still spawning. They need to make sure they watch their corners. Sorry, Carmea gonna take the shock off this and an immediate the timer, or do they keep the hold? It seems like the hold is the play for now.
Parzelli and Need Ward currently winning the Slays battle at the moment, but they are not winning in the points when it comes to the Oddball, currently down by 21 at the moment here. Out of JK, but they're finally going to be able to hunt them down. Huss awarded the double kill on that one, looking for the triple kill, but more importantly, taking away Charlie. There was a triple cap in favor of Esports Arena Blue, but they're still putting points on the board. Esports Arena Blue are about to make the 200-point mark.
They're bouncing back, but how does Torrent break this setup? You can see Huss got a kill. They got to activate off that little opening here. Great little bait out of Filthy G. He stays alive. Keep killing him. Also, because they're desperate, because they got to fly to hills, they know You got Carmea covering the sight line over to Pipes. He knows the split spawn is there, and he's already finding heads. You got plenty of action coming up. We're going to send it back to Yeso, send it back to T-Squared to wrap the show. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Right in the Spartans' hands, and I like this rotation from them, Tony. Get this towards the A setup. This is where it's so deadly, and especially when you have a player like Spartan able just to dominate the crosses with the shock rifle.
Sparty had the ball, he had the shock rifle. The only thing that was missing was a headshot. It looks like he's finding two. Takes down Eli Lee and JK.
Not gonna be able to dominate for long, but that must mean Spartan dropped it, right? Because he had, or did he die? I guess he must have died. Tony, I jump down. It's gonna make one side of the map a lot more advantageous, and you'll start to see players value the one side over the next. But Mortally triple kill for
down, whip it out. I'm talking about the launcher as he takes down Talon. Now going to grab himself a grapple. That flag already advancing forward over towards the courtyard. Able to find the second one, and Manny Super CC clearing out house. It looks like there's one more line of defense over towards the base, but Super CC is on the chase.
Be able to be the first one to push out with this shot, and he knows that there's some player over in this lockers. Oh, that was dangerous. Super CC almost got the ninja. Well, great awareness from Drucken.
There, but Super CC gets flanked, and the melee's gonna come in. Envor puts down the damage to take down his former teammate in Talik, and we down with your Pioneers. Fnatic already having the double tap. They are not hard. They say when it rains, it pours, and Sparty is about to come up. Lets them make a move, and now he's gonna get the flank off, making a which Sparty ends up getting a perfect
zero. All those teammates go 2 down. He's gonna be able to get that flag. Last life for his squad, and he does have the camouflage as well. He gets taken down. It's just such a devastating play. Ryan has just been an absolute terror in the back of this base, and you can see going down for the mid again. And oh my, it's an overkill. Ryan Septify able to get into the cutoff and find the kill on the flag.
Rain whips out the commando, tries to put it to work. There's a straggler here towards the driveway. Beautifully played for Rain, but there's a player coming up for the flight, ends up running into a grenade. Does Envor right after this. United 1 win away from becoming your champions, and that rocket gonna find 2 players. Sparty's so efficient. I ain't good at math, but 2 for 1 sounds.
Are they able to get away with it is the question. You see Super CC trying to make the plays to get in. He finds the first. Envor was able to get the rockets. He finds the second, and double 3, 2, 1, and it's over. Count them out. 1 second of ball time. The nades from Rain make all the difference as it's raining down victories, W's.
I'm just beaming from the enthusiasm I heard at the end of that highlight video.
Oh, man. Hey, you know what? Tools always brings the hype. There's some great clips from him and Cass with us here at Esports Arena that he He's got no shortage of energy and hype and excitement for these plays. So I'm all for it, and it was a very tight finish to that game. So I understand the excitement.
It was definitely well deserved. So let's start off with Monday night's Halo. What was your overall impression? What did you think of the games?
So one, I was very surprised to see Fnatic not even making top 4. That's kind of crazy, especially because they looked pretty dominant against just about everybody that they played in the week prior. So that was one surprise for me. Another was Incognito and how well that team played. Of course, we got to see them in the qualifiers prior to the season. They weren't one of the teams that qualified for Series E, obviously, but that team looks really, really good right now. And they brought in Neuronical as kind of that replacement 4th, and that seems to be the roster that they're running with right now. And I'm like, that roster's kind of sick. They had a really good showing. So did Needed Org, of course, the team that they faced off against in Grand Finals. Both teams were really impressive and showed me a lot of things that I didn't quite expect from them on Monday night. So hats off to both of them, and I really hope I get to see more of them in Series E in the future. I want them to keep coming out to Monday nights because they're just very, very fun to watch. And then I want to get to Esports Arena Blue. And ESA Blue, if memory serves, I think they finished 4th place again, so the 2nd week in a row, which is not a terrible result, to be clear. But I feel like I need to see more from this team. And I talked about it a little bit on Wednesday because I spoke with Eli Elite, one of the members of Esports Arena Blue, before the matches on Monday, and just try to gauge his thoughts on what happened the week prior, how he was feeling coming into this week. And Eli really felt that ESA Blue just did not play to their potential in any way the week prior. Felt that they made a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes, weren't quite as focused, and Eli felt very confident that they were going to fix those things this week and that they were going to come out and have a much better showing and come out and be the team that they expect themselves to be. And ultimately, I don't feel like we saw that this week. Now, credit where credit is due. Going into Wednesday, they had to face off against E United in the first matchup, and that is literally a top 4 team in North America. E United went to Grand Finals at Raleigh against Cloud9. Like, that is a stacked team. They are really good. So I don't know that I draw a lot out of that 0-3 loss to E United. There are not a lot of teams that aren't going to lose 0-3 to E United in a best of 5. But ultimately, they didn't really jump out to me on Monday night with their performance and show me something significantly better than we saw the week prior. And then, of course, following that up with ultimately a shutout loss to United, I would say this week went largely similar to week number 1. And so my question is what kind of adjustments is the team going to make? Because it feels like, Eli Elite was confident at the very least that they had made the adjustments and that they were ready to come out this week and have that performance that they would expect from themselves. But I would probably argue that Eli probably feels the same today as he did last Friday after that showing, and I need to see more from this team. Of course, it's early in the season, but the Halo Infinite first season is not very long, right? This is an 8-week run.
That's quick.
So you're already a quarter of the way there. We were talking about ALGS earlier, right? Mm-hmm. That compact schedule, there's not a lot of time. An 8-week season here for Series E Halo Infinite is not that long to improve. You need to take advantage of every single week and the kind of learning and building that you can do in that amount of time, because every opportunity that you waste to do that just sets you further behind the 8 ball. And when you look forward to events like Kansas City, that I know this team wants to be competing in and having good results in, you need to be better than you were these last 2 weeks.
It sounds almost like it's a bit of a mental hurdle they need to overcome. If they know the skills are there, they know they can play better, but just for some reason they're choking up when push comes to shove, or they're just not, completing these plays as they want to. Do you think that's a part of it, of just kind of working as a team or being in the right headspace versus the skills maybe necessarily? Yeah,
I would think so, especially when it comes to Monday night, because we have, and we did in the qualifiers, see an incredibly high bar of skill from this team. And that is why I'm disappointed. ultimately, right? It's less about, oh, you didn't win the Monday bracket, and more about, I've seen this team play better. I know for a fact this team can play better than they have been, and that they can beat these teams that they're losing to. You know, I can live with 4th place out of 23 teams. That's a solid showing.
Right.
But ultimately, I'm seeing these matches and going, you have played better than this, and you have beaten teams better than you're losing to right now. That's a problem. So, is it mental? Possibly, because I think the skill is there, the teamwork is there. You know, can I pinpoint exactly what is going wrong? That would take, I would say, much deeper and further conversations with the players, and they may not want to go into that kind of stuff. So I understand that, but ultimately, and I would say they agree. They probably know that they can play a lot better than this. They don't necessarily need me to say it, but ultimately, it's my job to say it, and I would say that this team is better than the performances that they have shown the last 2 Monday nights.
I feel like it's especially tough with Monday night's Halo because all the teams were playing really well, or there was a lot of, you know, kind of challenge to Built by Gamers was expected to win over Need and Org, but Need and Org still came through, and I feel like, you know, everyone kind of has their, you know, their fair shot at a win here. It's not kind of like expected wins and losses. It's kind of anyone's game, especially with Fnatic getting, you know, beat at one point as well, when Fnatic was a clear favorite. So you have to really be on your game in these tournaments.
Yeah, it does truly feel like even in the open bracket, you cannot take a series off because there's a lot of teams coming out that are hungry and that have a lot of just raw skill and talent that they can bring to the table, that if you come in discounting a team and thinking, oh, this is an easy win, that's when you get bit, and that's when things can go really wrong. You know, we'll have to see how things shake up next week. I'm still holding on to hope and have a lot of confidence in this team, but I just want them to show me the team that I saw in qualifiers, because I was really excited about that team after they competed in qualifiers. They showed a lot of great things, and I want to see that during the season.
I want to see that too, especially watching draft day. They were so, you know, after playing all the qualifiers, they were so hot out the gate. They were, you know, really excited. They played really well. They really proved themselves, and they're a phenomenal team. And for some reason, that's kind of slipping away from them, and I hope they regain that back pretty soon, because as you said, the Halo season is not very long, so they kind of have to put their pedal to the metal right now.
Yep, and of course a big event coming up very soon that I know they want to be a part of, and I know they want to make a splash in, similar to the way that Esports Arena Red was able to do in Anaheim, is HCS Kansas City. The Kansas City Major is coming up at the end of next month. Of course, we got the details about that event announced this past week, and it's going to be a big one. Of course, it's an international LAN. All kinds of players from all across the world will be coming out, and a $250,000 base prize pool. The
money.
Yes, the prize pool, I think, for Raleigh, if I remember, started at $250K, finished at $350K.
Wow.
So I would expect this one to possibly, I would expect this one probably to hit maybe more closer to 300, but still, that's a lot of cash on the line. A lot of the best teams in the world coming out to compete. This is an opportunity for teams to come out and make a statement. Of course, we've, I've talked about it on the show multiple times. It's been the Cloud9 era since the start of Halo Infinite. They won Raleigh. They won all the HCS events after that. They won Anaheim. They have been the most dominant team in the world so far in Halo Infinite. But this is going to be the biggest opportunity for somebody to try and knock them off their throne, and I can't wait.
Ooh, do you think someone's going to be able to do it?
I mean, if you're asking me to bet on either Cloud9 or the field at that event, the odds tell me I should take the field. And I would say we will see a Sentinels team that should hopefully be back at their full power. An Optic team that has now officially brought in Formal to replace Pistola. And Formal looked really, really good when he was competing with Sentinels. So I think it is a much closer competition than we saw in Anaheim. And we'll have to see. But I'm like, I think United, Sentinels, and or Optic all have a very good shot at knocking Cloud9 off their throne, but they've yet to do it, so we'll see.
So we'll have to see. I also had a question about weapons and like the balance between them, because some weapons seem to be a lot stronger than others, but some people argue that that's just part of the game and the strategy. So,
sorry, I got a little cough there.
What is your opinion? Do you think that some weapons being stronger is just part of the game and the strategy, or do you think they should be a little bit more balanced?
I mean, to an extent, I mean, there's never going to be perfect balance in the game. So there, that is a kind of pie in the sky dream there. Does 343 need to take a look at the power of some weapons? I think so. Of course, the Mangler has been a hot button topic in the competitive community for a long time, to the point where a lot of teams are GAing the Mangler. And for those of you at home who don't know what that means, GA is just gentleman's agreement, which means basically both teams say, hey, like, we're kind of handshaking that we won't use the Mangler.
Wow.
So that is happening fairly consistently. That's happening fairly consistently in competitive events right now. Even in Series E, some teams are agreeing to GA the Mangler. And I would argue that at the very least, 343 needs to take a solid look at weapons like the Mangler, and it probably needs some form of nerf. How they implement that nerf, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not as well read on like kind of what kind of changes players would like to see. I know there are certain players that just think, just take it out, and I don't agree with that whatsoever. We've talked about it before, right? The sandbox is so important, it's so core to the identity of the Halo franchise, and just taking weapons out of the sandbox that you don't like is antithetical to the game. But I would say, at the very least, there needs to be some sort of visit to the Mangler, and it needs to be nerfed in some fashion. We'll have to see what that choice is. But also, 343 has been a little slow as of late in terms of like community updates and stuff. Thankfully, they have put out a couple of nice pieces of communication with the community over the last few days that I think people are starting to feel better about. But I would not be surprised if we didn't see any sort of weapon balance touches prior to Kansas City. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if we went into Kansas City playing the same game that we're playing right now.
Right.
So we'll have to see what happens. But at the very least, I think there are some legitimate arguments to some balance adjustments that need to come to some weapons.
That makes sense, and I wonder how that's going to affect, the gameplay at Kansas City, if someone's just going to get a hold of the Mangler and just dominate. And
I'm curious to see if some top teams agree to GA it in that event.
In that event would be crazy.
Well, and it's like, it's something that if you watch the show on Wednesday, Tools talked about, because he and Why Not were having a discussion about GAing the Mangler, and Tools was basically saying, he's like, yo, if I'm in a match, like I'm in a game, and there's whatever amount of dollars on the line. I mean, you go to Kansas City, right? Maybe there's $50,000 on the line in this one game, and maybe you've GA'd the Mangler, but now you're like, there's $50,000 on the line. We need a kill, and there's a Mangler right there. And his whole point was like, I'm picking up that Mangler, and I'm going to kill you, and you can mold all you want. I'm taking the $50,000. And I'm like, that's kind of a good point. And that's ultimately where, like, the whole GA strategy kind of falls apart, because ultimately there's no enforcement of it, right? It's only like the social pressure of the community and of your kind of colleagues in the competitive space. But ultimately, like, if two teams GA the Mangler and then one of them decides to use it anyway, the HCS isn't going to do anything about it. They're like, this isn't a part of our rules. This is, you don't have to do this. Like, that's between you two as teams. And so ultimately that's part of why I think 343 taking some sort of adjustment to weapons like that needs to happen, because ultimately it shouldn't come down to teams having to gentleman's agreement not to use a weapon because they feel it's overpowered and not healthy for the scene.
Right, it feels like we're getting into like game theory or prisoner's dilemma and these kind of psychological games, and not just about the like esports.
It's not
of
just
it.
the theory, it's a game theory.
Hey, which is
I love that production's like, all right, that joke's done. You get it out of here.
Broadcast, we're good. Which is not what the players came here for. They're here to play some Halo, and this is just another layer that they have to think about.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm excited for Kansas City. I'm excited for Evo. I'm excited for ALGS. There's so much hype, competitive play coming in across all the scenes that we followed today.
There are a ton of tournaments and matches coming up. Also with Series E next week.
Yes.
We have games on games on games. Monday we have Halo. Tuesday we have Apex. Wednesday we have Halo and Apex. Thursday we have Guilty Gear Strive, and then Friday we have the recap show.
6 shows.
What?
This is a lot of content.
Isn't there a secondary Guilty Gear show on Wednesday as well?
Yeah, Level Up Live has the Wednesday Night Fights bracket on Wednesday. So as soon as you're done watching Apex here, you head over to twitch.tv/Level Up Live and you can watch Guilty Gear and a bunch of other FGC titles. So.
Lot of games. Make sure to follow the channel. We also post the VODs on YouTube, and there's highlights on YouTube. If you're like, that was so sick, I have to watch that highlight again. You can find them all on there.
Yeah.
Any
it's a good
final
show.
thoughts?
I'm looking forward to this weekend. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna play some Apex. I gotta start my grind for Diamond now. I hit Platinum, and I need to get to Diamond. So thank you.
Hit one gold right onto the next.
I'm now like I think I am now a just slightly below average Apex competitive player.
Oh, hey!
I think that is what being platform means. So hey, let's go!
Congratulations! I'll be watching ALGS this weekend, and I'm super excited to see what happens as they kick off the first week.
It's gonna be fun.
Thank you so much for watching our Series E recap show. I'm Kaisa, joined by Yeso, and from us and the entire team at Esports Arena, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.